Hi, welcome to Arcane Wednesday for June 3rd, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Alright, today on Arcane Wednesday, we are going to be looking at the spell Blight from 5th edition D&D and how it has evolved over the different editions. Now, this spell doesn't have a very long history in the game, but it's kind of interesting how it has changed from the time that it was first introduced. Okay, so Blight is a 4th level spell that is available to a ton of different classes, including the arcane classes. Um, One action, range of 30 feet, verbal and somatic components, and it's considered a necromantic spell. And what it basically does is it drains moisture and vitality from a creature of your choice within range. And if the target fails a saving throw, they take 8d8 necrotic damage. So it's just like pulling all the moisture out of them. And if you target a plant creature or a magical plant, it makes the saving throw with disadvantage, and the spell deals maximum damage. And if you target a non-magical plant, you just outright kill the plant. Um, and when you cast the spell at higher levels, the damage increases by 1d8 per spell level. So now, as I said, this is a spell that is not new to 5th edition, but it has changed coming into 5th edition. It was actually introduced fairly late in the game in 3rd edition D&D, relatively late for some spells. And it was a spell for druids, again, necromancy, but also sorcerers and wizards could use it. And its only legal target was plants or plant creatures. Now, and it also required touch. So it wasn't a range thing. You had to actually go up and touch this thing. And it would deal 1d6 points of damage per caster level, up to a maximum of 15d6. And if it made a save versus fortitude, it would take half damage. And again, non-magical plants or plants that are not creatures doesn't receive a save and immediately withers and dies. And it just has no effect on the soil or surrounding plant life. So this is an example where they've taken a spell that was very specific and they've kind of broadened it a little bit. And of course, the trope in D&D 5e is that when a spell requires a certain level to cast, there is a static amount of damage or a static effect of healing or whatever that is tied to that level. And then the way that you increase that healing or increase that damage is to cast it at a higher spell slot. But in 3rd edition and the editions before, the damage component was all tied into the caster level. So you would always cast the spell at the same level, but as you got to be a more and more powerful caster, the effect of the spell would get greater and greater and greater. All right. So now also in 3rd edition, there was a spell called Unholy Blight. And that was simply one that you would use to target good creatures, and you would deal damage to them and possibly sicken them. You could deal damage to creatures that weren't good, but you could not sicken those creatures. So it's almost like there's been a little bit of fusing in 5th edition between a Blight spell and the Unholy Blight spell. But flavor-wise, it keeps a lot of this Blight, except now the targets are expanded so it can include non-plant creatures. All right, well, that's going to do it for today and our examination of the Blight spell. If you like what we do here on this channel, go ahead and click subscribe. Click the bell down there, and that will let you know every time we put a new video up on the channel. Try to get content up there every day. You'll also find all the contact information in the description below, how you can follow me on social media and the various different platforms that I use. I stream actual play games on Twitch, and you can find all the information about how to follow me there. And also, if you have used Blight in a campaign, or if you have seen it used in a campaign, I would be interested in hearing your stories about it. Now, it just so happens that very recently I had an enemy druid that used Blight against a party that in a campaign that I was running, and it was a very effective spell. In fact, it actually killed the cleric. Now, when I say killed, it knocked the cleric unconscious. It didn't one shot the cleric, but it knocked the cleric unconscious in a fight. So the one of the rogues had to run in and feed a potion to the cleric to get the cleric back up, which was fortunate because later on in the same fight, a dragon did insta-kill another character in the party, so the cleric had to go and use their revive to bring them back up and get them back to where they could help later in the fight. So it was a pretty tough fight that the characters were in, but it was a major boss fight at the end of an adventure story arc. So be interested in how you have seen this spell used and any kind of memorable moments that Blight has come into play. All right, well, that's going to do it for Arcane Wednesday. Be watching this channel every day. Tomorrow we'll be back with a discussion of a divine spell from 5e D&D. Okay, everybody, everyone take care, and we will talk to you later. Peace out.